Okay, hello grade 9s. This is the lesson for Monday, April 27th. We're coming to the end of this unit pretty quickly. We've got a lesson today, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and that'll be it for this week. And then next week on Monday I'll do review, and then I'll post the tests, and you'll have till the end of that week to do it. So this unit took us a long time. Obviously, we're only doing 3 lessons instead of 5 a week. And it's the most important unit, so I wanted to make sure that we took our time with it. So what I would really like first, as always, is for you to do the first 5-minute question. And today, there are actually 3 of them. You're going to find an equation for each situation. You guys seemed really good at this type, where I just give you the 2 things. The table and graph, for some of you, is a little more difficult. So this is a bit of a review of that. Again, I think that's maybe the most important thing in the most important unit, is finding these equations. So please pause, try these questions on your handout. You can do it on scrap paper. If you've got a printer, that's ideal, but if you don't, you can do it on scrap paper, or you can write on your Edwin with your finger. There's lots of options. So please pause and then come back. Okay, so I'm hoping that you paused and came back. Remember, our equations always look like this: y equals mx plus b. M is the slope or rate of change, and b is the initial value. So the important thing is to find M and B. So the cost to rent a bowling lane is $24. That's going to be our initial value, plus $4.50 per. Whenever you see this word per, that tells you that this is the slope or the rate of change. Now, instead of y equals, it's a cost question. So cost equals M, which is $4.50. I don't put dollar signs in equations. 450x. Now, instead of x, we have to figure out what's going to determine the cost. Well, the cost changes based on the number of people. So I'll put N for number of people, or P for people, and then plus B, the initial value, or 24.00. If you had 4.5N plus 24, that's correct. It's just when it's dollars, I put 2 decimal places because it makes it obvious. So there is the equation for the first one. I'm hoping you got that one right. If you didn't, you need to check in with me. We can make a time to talk on the phone, or I could do a Google Hangout where I go through some questions with you to make sure you're getting up to speed. All right, so again, we're asked for an equation. So we need mx plus b. Okay, so these are our x values. These are our y values. We need to find b first. B is the initial value, and b is always the y value when x is 0. So here, when x is 0, y is 2150. So b is 2150. And to get the rate of change, or the m, we do the rise divided by the run. So to get the rise, we pick 2 points, and we do the change between them. So the rise is from here to here. So 3150 minus 2150 equals, and there are a few of you who know what you're doing, but you're just, I don't think you're using a calculator sometimes. So I get 10. So this is 10. That's the rise. Now the biggest mistake you're going to make here is that you're going to call this the rate of change, but it's not. It's only half of it. We also need the run. So the run is how the x values change. So from 0 to 2, well, that goes up by 2. So our m is the rise divided by the run. I'm doing a lot of color coding here to make things as obvious as I can. And if we divide those, we get m equals 5. So we've got m and we've got b. Now we write the equation. So instead of y equals, y is cost. So c equals, m is 5, so $5 per person times the number of people plus the initial value is 21.5 or 2150, And I probably should have written 5.00 here, but it honestly doesn't matter. Okay, one first 5-minute question left. Obviously, it's going to take more than 5 minutes. Again, whenever I ask for an equation, I want mx plus b. Remember, these are our x values down here. These are our y values up the side. First, we need b, the initial value. Remember, it's always the y value when x is 0. So I go up and I find the y value when x is 0. This is the initial value, sometimes called the y-intercept, and in this case it's 20. And to get the rate of change, this is the hardest part, we go from these 2 points like this. So to get the rise, we go from 20 all the way up to here, which is between 32 and 36, so 34. So 34 minus 20 equals 14. And to get the run, we go from 0 to 2. So 2 minus 0 equals 2. This is the rise. This is the run. And so the m, or the rate of change, is rise divided by run. 14 divided by 2 is 7. And now for the equation. Instead of y, it's cost again. So cost equals, the rate of change is 7. I'm going to put $7 because this means it's $7 per person. Instead of x, I'm going to use n for number of people, and then plus $20. Again, in this case, those .00s weren't necessary, but it's okay. So let's look at all 3 of them at once. At this place, it costs $24 to get in, plus $4.50 per person. At the next place, it costs $21.50 to get in, so it's cheaper to get in, but it's a little more expensive per person. So $3 less, or $2.50 less to get in, and then per person it's 50 cents more. And then the last one costs $20 to get in, so 24, $21.50. This is the cheapest place to go just to get in, but then look at the cost per person, $7. So you can see that the third one actually would add up really quick. But if you're going by yourself, I don't know, which place would you go? Okay. So that is it for the first 5 minutes. I think what you're going to find is that today's lesson is like nothing. It's the tiniest, littlest new information, and then you're just going to practice the old stuff with the new stuff. All right, so direct variation, this is a linear relationship that starts at 0. A partial variation is a linear relationship that does not start at 0. So make sure you get those definitions into your handout. This is really the new thing today. So it's mostly going to be practicing old stuff. Now I'm going to flip to your handout. This is the first 5 minutes. Whoop, hopefully you did that already. I'm not sure how to get rid of that, so I guess that's just going to stay there. So let's scroll down. We just defined direct and partial variation. Now let's do some questions. Okay, so a rental car costs $50 per day plus 20 cents for each kilometer. Make a table of values up to 1,000. So we've got 0, 100, 200, so 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, and 1,000. All right. So let's now fill in the table here. So $50 per day, that's the initial value. So for 0 kilometers, it costs $50. And then it's 20 cents for each kilometer. So there's a few mistakes you might make here. You might put 0.2 here, but if you think about it, if you're driving 100 kilometers, it's going to cost a lot more than 20 cents to rent a car. So what we actually do here is we figure out if we're going 100 kilometers, which is the next value in the table, each of those kilometers is going to cost us 20 cents. So we multiply by 0.20. And we get 20 bucks. So for those 100 kilometers, it costs an extra 20 bucks. Here's the second mistake you're going to make. You're going to write in 20 here. So that means that for no kilometers, it's 50 bucks. And then for 100 kilometers, it only costs you 20 bucks. But that can't be right. This has to cost more. So for the 100 kilometers, we pay another $20. We already paid 50. So now it's 70. What if we go 200 kilometers? Well, we do 200 times 0.20. So it's an extra 40 bucks on top of the original 50, so it's 90. And I'm hoping you folks are pretty bright. I'm betting you can fill in the rest of this table without using all those calculations. So I would encourage you to pause, try to fill in the rest of the table, and then unpause. Okay, so if you did that, this goes up 20, up 20. So this has got to go up 20, up 20, up 20. And it just keeps going up by 20 because it's a linear relationship. So 230, 250. And now I wanted you to graph it. Now, you might graph every single point. But check this out. 0, 50. So 0 kilometers, 50 bucks is about here. And the question is, how many points do you need to draw a graph? 1,000 goes with 250. So 1,000 is here. 240, 250 is here. So here's one more point. So you could just go like this and draw the line through there. But I always encourage people to get a third point just to be sure. So 500 kilometers, I take the middle point, 500 and 150. There it is. And I look at those points. Do they make a straight line? They do. So that tells me that what I did is probably good. I use a ruler normally, but I can't the way I'm doing this. So there's our graph. All right. Write an equation. So C, because it asks for C as the cost, equals. Now what's the rate of change? What's the cost per kilometer? Well, it's right here. So 0.20. And this should be x, but it says n is the number of kilometers, so 0.20n plus the initial value. When x is 0, y is 50. So 0.20n plus 50. Okay, is this partial or direct? Well, this is what's new today. So does this start at 0? Is this 0 here? No, it's 50. So unless it starts right here, which it doesn't, it's partial, and I would say doesn't start at 0, it starts at 50. And finally, determine the rental fee for 45 kilometers. So for this is probably the most important new thing today. Direct and partial is going to be pretty easy. So what we do here is for 45 kilometers, that's going to go in for n. So it's going to be 0.20 times 45 plus 50. So C equals, let's go to the calculator. So 0.20 times 45 is 9 plus 50 is 59. It's 59. Now let's look at our table, see if that makes sense. So we're talking about 45 kilometers. We know that no kilometers cost 50 bucks. 100 costs 70. So if we're going for 45, it's not right in the middle, but it's pretty close. Oh, sorry, my thing was glitching out there. So 45 is not right in the middle, but it's pretty close. So between 50 and 70. And if we look, uh-oh, I'm afraid I'm going to crash here. So let me just save this. Okay, so I'm just being careful. So 45 is between 0 and 100, so our cost should be between 50 and 70. We got $59, and that's correct. All right, next one. So what are there? 4. So I'm going to do this one, and then I'm going to leave the other 2, and that'll be your homework. So not a lot of homework this day, obviously. All right, so there's $500 in Holly's bank account. She takes out $50 from her account each month, but doesn't put any back in. Make a table for up to 6 months. So that means this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I would encourage you to pause and try this on your own. And I want you to fill in what goes up here and here. Fill in these numbers, do the graph, and answer these questions at the bottom. Okay? So I'd encourage you to pause and try that now. All right, so what are our variables here? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that is number of months, obviously. And then what is it that we want to know? As time goes by, what changes? Well, what changes is the balance or the amount in her bank account. And you can see here, balance is the dependent. And if we scroll down, number of months is the independent right here. So these match up, which is good. Now the next question is, what does her balance start at? Well, her balance starts at $500. And if she takes out $50, it goes down by 50, so $450. Again, my hope is that you paused and tried this. And at any point, you can pause and try it from where I get to. If you're like, oh, I get it now, then pause and try it. Okay, so we go down by 50 each time. So we made a table. We're going to graph it. So 0 months, $500, starts here. 1 month, she's down to 450. 2 months, 400. I don't want to graph all these points. They're clearly making a line. I graphed the last one, 6, 200, and I draw a straight line. Not so much, but I try my best. So there's the graph. Let's answer the questions. Write an equation. Remember, this is always y equals mx plus b style. But instead of y, we have balance. So we will write b. Now here's the tricky part. The rate of change. Is the amount going up or down? Well, we know it's going down because she's taking money out, so the rate of change is going to be negative. So negative 50, and instead of x, it's number of months. So you could write m for months or n for number of months. And then her initial value, well, when x is 0, y is 500, so plus 500. Okay. Does this relationship represent a partial or a direct? I really want you to pause and answer this question because that's kind of what's new today. So the answer is, hopefully you tried it already. If not, pause now. It's partial because it starts at 500, not at 0. All right, so how much money will she have after 60 months? So after 60 months, her balance follows this equation. So after 60 months, 60 plus 500. And we go to the calculator. So I clear it. So 50, but it's negative 50 times 60 is negative 3,000. And we got to add that 500. So negative $2,500. So what that means is if she continues at this rate, she'll be $2,500 in the red. In the red is an expression people use when you're in debt. Now, realistically, the bank's not just going to keep letting her take out $50 a month when she doesn't have anything. There's a thing called overdraft where you can take out a bit after you're at 0. It's not something I would advise because they charge a lot of fees. So taking out $50, they'd probably charge you an extra like $10 or something. And then you'd have to pay that money back. So this is not where you want to be. This is a bad situation. All right, the last one. How many months will have passed when Holly has $50 in her account? This is the hardest part about today, and it's something that we'll start doing more. But really, this is a question from a couple of units ago in our equations unit. So 50 in her account, that's the balance. So we're going to replace the balance with 50. So negative 50n plus 500. Okay, and we're going to solve for n because they're saying how many months. So what's n? What's the number of months? So to do this, we want to get n by itself. So we got to get rid of plus 500, so we subtract 500 from both sides. These cancel. Hopefully this is ringing a bell. So 50 minus 500 on the left is negative 450. So negative 450 equals negative 50n. To get n by itself, we have to divide, because it's being multiplied, by negative 50. These cancel because they divide to make 1, and n equals negative 450 divided by 50 negative, and we get 9. So 9 months. After 9 months, she will have 50 bucks. And if you did your graph super well, in this case, you could have used it, but it is very important. This is going to be a star. Important that you can do this, but let's go to the graph. So a balance of 50 bucks. Let's move across till we meet the line. It's about here. My line's not straight, so it's not perfect, but that's about 9 months. So 50 bucks, 9 months. That checks out with what we did. So your homework is this and this. Okay, just to help you out here, I'm going to get you started on the table for number 4. So Ishmael sells high-definition televisions. He's paid a weekly salary of 20% commission. So 20% as a decimal, you might remember, is 0.20. 0.20. So to fill in the y values here, you multiply the sales by 0.20. So 0 times 0.20 is 0. 1,000 times 0.20 is 200. So my sister used to work a commission job. I think a lot of car salesmen work commission. Real estate agents work commission. It's where they get a certain percent. 20% is a very high percent, but they get a certain percent of what they sell. So that's why salesmen sometimes can be, a bit, people would say, pushy, because they really want you to buy something, because if you buy stuff, they get more money. Whereas if you, any of your jobs, if you have any, if you work at the grocery store, if someone buys a jar of pickles, you're not getting 10 cents from that jar of pickles, right? So you're not like, hey, check out these pickles. You should buy these pickles. These are really nice pickles, right? Because you don't get commission. There's no incentive for you, for a customer, to buy something in any of your part-time jobs. So that's what commission is, if you've never heard of it before. So again, please do question 3 and 4, and I'll post the solutions later today. All right, thanks folks, and good luck.